it gets down to nut cutting time, and suddenly it's revealed that Sean has told Bret one time in the past that he was never going to put him over. So Bret has decided he ain't going to put Sean over. Sean wouldn't put Davey over. So Bret's fucking pissed about that. Bret's leaving to take a job where he's going to go from making $1.5 million a year to making $2.5 million a year. Meanwhile, Sean's pissed off because he's only making $750,000 a year on his guaranteed contract because he signed it before the money started creeping up. Shawn Michaels has had all his goddamn ridiculous fucking personal issues that everybody's fed up with. Everybody likes Bret, but by the same token, he's being so fucking childish in a lot of people's opinions, taking it so seriously. And if he'd have just come out and said, I hate Shawn Michaels, and Shawn Michaels is a prick, and I want Shawn Michaels to die, and I'll never put him over, I would have respected that. But it's like they said, well, if you don't want to put him over on pay-per-view, Bret, what about dropping it to him Friday night? Well, no, I'm not going to let him beat me in Canada. In my home country, that's like me. I'm not going to let somebody beat me in the United States of America. Well, okay, then what about Saturday night in Detroit? If you let him beat you in the United States, this is where it was going, folks. If you let him beat you in this country, but not that country, what about Saturday night in Detroit? Well, that don't work because we've sold the pay-per-view on me being champion. If I go to Montreal, where I'm over, and I'm not the champion, it'll let all my Canadian fans down. He said he was a Canadian hero, which he is. But let's face it, that list is not the lie. I kid, I jest. But Whipper Billy Watson level fucking hero here. And at the same time, of course, Michaels is a fucking prick and deserves every bit of the fucking disrespect he's getting from the guy he's working with. And then my question to Vince is, why didn't you think to take the fucking belt off of him before you freed him up to negotiate with fucking Bischoff to get $1 million extra a year and go to work down there, and his contract is up basically the next day? Then there was the talk they were going to do some kind of DQ finish, and he was going to come out and just hand the belt to him on fucking Raw. And I made my thought known to Vince. I said, why don't you just lay down and let him piss in your mouth while he does that? What the fuck? Yeah, here's my belt. I'm the champion of your company, but I'm giving you this back because I'm going to go and wrestle for the guys that are going to pay me a lot of money.
What does Vince say to this?
He said, well, you may be right there, pal. I mean, what can he fucking say? This was the biggest goddamn clusterfuck in the history of clusterfucks. Yet one fucking, the asshole, at least he was our asshole, he was fucking staying. The good guy was going for more money. So why is his feelings fucking hurt? I'm saying sodomize me with a goddamn rusty fucking fishing knife on national television for $2.5 million a year. Just give me 1 year of that, and none of you assholes here in Connecticut will ever see my fat ass again. I'm fucking fed up with the whole thing. I'm gaining fucking weight. And it was basically, it was a no-win situation. And what Vince did, and Vince didn't know, I guarantee you, he didn't know what he did was going to click in the way it did, and I'll tell you in a second, but every finish was talked about. Like, how can Bret go over? How can Shawn go over? Can there be a DQ? He's going to walk out and drop the belt. Everybody was shooting everything they had. That's why at one point I said, fucking book him with goddamn Shamrock. He'll drop the belt then. I said, double cross his ass. And that, see, Vince Russo took credit. And let me tell you this. If the finish was my idea, I wouldn't admit it in public because this is a no-win situation. But I know whose idea it wasn't. It wasn't fucking Vince Russo's. Russo's taking credit for it. Well, I explained to him. When I said double cross in jest about the Shamrock thing, Russo's eyes got even buggier than normal. He didn't know what a double cross was. As Bill Watts used to say, if he was walking through a men's locker room, he'd be whistling Stranger in Paradise. Vince Russo does not know anything about professional athletics or how to manipulate or choreograph or simulate same. But anyway, the point is, and I told Vince, I said, and what happens if fucking Shawn does try to cinch up on a small package, Bret will kick out at 2 3/4 and beat the piss out of Shawn right there on fucking television. And so nobody knew what the fuck that Vince was going to do. And finally, we had the production meeting the night before while the guys were in Detroit. We were in Montreal Saturday night, and we went through the whole fucking format, and then got to Shawn and Bret and the time they had, and no details were discussed. And I walked over and I said, as a matter of fact, that's the dates that we would announce those matches on television. See? I said, Vince, I don't want to know anything otherwise. Do you have a finish? Yes, I do. I said, good. That's all I need to know. And I'm figuring some way or another something's going to fucking happen. But since at this point my MO at television and at pay-per-view, since I was not a performer, was to basically get there and either do on cameras at television or agent my matches or whatever, and as soon as the last match got in the ring or the first time I could get the fuck out so I could go and eat and get away from wrestling, I did that. But I stayed for that match because I wanted to see what the fuck was going to happen. And I'm sitting there, and as soon as they go into that fucking spot, I'm like, and right then there's the bell, and I said, I'll see you guys later. And I stood up and got in the car and fucking took off and missed all the rest of the shit because I knew something was going to happen. I just didn't know what.
What'd you think when Vince went to ringside?
See, that's the thing. You don't. They constructed. It was the first ever shoot work double cross, because the idea of a double cross is you want to get the result you want without one of the participants' knowledge, but without anybody else knowing that there's anything off fucking kilter. They didn't do that. He went with the worked shoot double cross, where he specifically did such things to make sure that everybody knew that the fix was in, but except the guy who was actually getting fucked didn't know till afterwards. So it was a reverse back at you double cross. I don't fucking know. But the point is, Vince thought he'd be the babyface. And the one thing that I did say, I said, you know, once again, I said, what the fuck? He's not going to expose the fucking business. Is he going to call the newspaper up and say, well, they fucking screwed me? That's what he did. I couldn't believe. Bret Hart never, and I love you, Bret, but you never called the newspapers and said, you know, all those titles that I won, I really didn't win them. You know, the people put me over. But you lose one for real, and you call up and say, I didn't really lose it. He fucking basically gave Vince McMahon all the free publicity in the world. And at the same point where Vince, remember the first couple of weeks he came out and was like, well, the time-honored tradition. Now, and I'm sure Russo's behind that. Now we're telling people, okay, before you leave the company, you're supposed to fucking lay down and drop the belt. Here, John Wayne's supposed to put the Indians over if he leaves Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer and goes over to fucking 20th Century Fox, folks. Fuck. Just more behind-the-scenes bullshit that Russo sits there and jacks off on because he can be around fucking real men. But anyway, so the time-honored tradition, Vince tries to be the babyface and tried to make Bret the heel. And that wasn't going to work because people would know you screwed the fucking guy, because to them wrestling was still wrestling and at least somewhat legitimate. It wasn't sports entertainment like it has become today. No, you screwed the guy out of his title and he's mad and spit on you, of course. And Bret was a fucking hero. So WCW then mismanages the hottest wrestler in the world and ends his career soon after. So that was a tribute to how fucked up they were. Meanwhile, Vince is smart enough, after 2 or 3 weeks of trying to be the babyface, and people going, no, fuck you, you fucking asshole. You're the boss, and you stole this guy's belt and screwed him around. All of a sudden, he said, well, maybe I ought to go with this, and there's Mr. McMahon is born. And you've got The Rock, you've got Austin, and you've got, all of a sudden, something that people actually can believe about wrestling again, and you've got the greatest heel in the world on television. That's all they needed. And for Russo to say the Attitude Era and Degeneration X and the fact that I had diva pillow fights and all this other stuff, no. It was the two greatest talents of that generation in the ring, maturing and getting in the right place right at the right time, that the fucking biggest asshole heel fucker that could possibly exist in wrestling fucked a hero wrestler for real, that everybody knew it. Boom. That's what takes things off, and everything else just tails along for the ride.
Did you beat Hebner out of the building that night?
Yes, as a matter of fact. As soon as they did that, I didn't even wait around for the fucking monitor trashing and everything. I said, something's going to happen, I don't want to be around. And then sure enough, as a matter of fact, Mick Foley, I've said this many times, the nicest guy in the wrestling business, too nice to be in the wrestling business, didn't come to TV in Ottawa, was upset. I love you, Cactus, but you were upset that a promoter would fuck one of the boys. That's like being upset that Jenna Jameson would take one up the ass. It's unheard of. Point being, I had to, of course, call Cactus and say, please come. Well, it just wasn't right. I said, no, Cactus, it wasn't right. I said, it wasn't right. The guy making $1.5 million a year got screwed out of his fake wrestling title, so he's going to go make $2.5 million. And the guy that fucking helped screw him, because Shawn and Helmsley knew it, they were in on it, because, of course, they were the backup in case Bret really did try to beat him up and they couldn't get him out of the way in time. The guy that screwed the guy that's going to make $2.5 million is going to make his fucking almost $1 million, and he's going to be the champion. And you're sitting at home. Are they going to send you your check, your show of solidarity? Come on. He said, well, I guess they aren't. He was back the next day. But it shows he was right in moral theory if this was a fucking, pure babyface heel situation. But this was a heel program. There were no baby faces. A bunch of people being fucking childish, grown men, one guy that didn't take care of his business and let a fucking guy with the ability to leave as champion leave, two fucking athletes that are making more money than any of us in this room will ever fucking dream of, and Mick's holding out for moral fucking turpitude, And here's the goddamn thing. They'd made a deal. It wasn't even that Vince didn't trust Bret Hart now. Here's something else that nobody brings up. The deal was that he asked Bret, and Bret got Eric Bischoff to agree that he would not mention Bret Hart coming to WCW until Bret came back at one point, and the idea was to come back at the December pay-per-view, December 7th in Springfield, and drop the title. Basically, Bret gave his word that he wouldn't show up on WCW television with the WWF title belt. Which Vince actually believed him, and I did too, because he's a man of his word, even if he did take himself a little bit too seriously. But Eric Bischoff promising, I promise Vince, on these live televisions that I have that air all across the country, I won't say that the WWF champion has already signed and committed to coming to WCW, and he'll be here in a few weeks, because as of the day after Survivor Series, Monday, November 10th, on Nitro that night, that could have been said, because the deal had just been done. They hadn't had a live TV since the previous week. Mm-hmm. Raw was live, and so was Nitro. Then all this shit had fucking happened. So the only way, with no internet to speak of, that Vince McMahon had to beat Bischoff at his own game and make sure that his champion was not noted as leaving to go to WCW was for his champion to lose the title that night. And that's exactly what happened, come hell or high water. It wasn't that he didn't trust Bret Hart, but he sure didn't trust Eric Bischoff. Yeah. And why the fuck would you trust Eric Bischoff?
Good point.
So basically, it was a goddamn bunch of bullshit. But it led to the WWF taking off, being able to do the public offering, the stock scam, making the line in their pockets, making themselves all rich. Hopefully everybody out there listening bought some of that stock. Good God.